that's now 3 straight losses for your UCF Knights as they drop 19-13 to the Cincinnati Bearcats. What is going wrong and why a change was needed and could potentially give the season some hope? Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Charge On. As always, I am your host, Sean Green. Before we get started, a quick word from our sponsor, BetOnline. BetOnline is the world's most trusted betting platform and your number one source for everything sports betting. Every stat, matchup, breakdown, and even live odds and spreads to bet on during the games. With the largest catalog of odds on everything from football, MLB playoffs, NHL, NBA to political props. When the game's over, head on over to our online casino and get in on a game of blackjack or poker or unwind with our over 150 slot games. Head to the website today to get in on the action with America's most trusted site for online wagering. BetOnline, the game starts here. Another late night for me, guys. I don't know what it is. Even on the earlier games, I don't go to bed until late. I don't record until late. It is 2:40 on Sunday, so you're seeing this. I post this at 7 a.m. I am up late once again. After we did the post-game live show, which those are just, they go well. We've really enjoyed doing them regardless of the outcome. There hasn't been, we're 2-2 now for doing the post-game lives, given that we've played 2 cupcakes at home and then the 2 actual good opponents we've lost to. But, it's good. I like doing it because you kind of get our immediate reaction, our immediate thoughts. And these post-game pods I really like doing because this is me. Game ended around 7. It's 2:40. So you're getting the Sean that's really thought about the game for a good portion of the night. And I'll start with this. There was a lot of noise coming into this game. There was not a lot of hype around the game because I think a lot of UCF fans, we talked about it this week on the postgame or the pregame pod, and we spent 30 minutes talking about it, where the direction of the program is going and where the confidence is in the program. And, when you talk about that for 30 minutes on a pregame podcast, that probably the direction or the team right now is probably not in the place you want it to be. That's kind of what everybody's been talking about this week is Gus the right man for the job? KJ needs to be benched. Is the program taking a step back? What's going on? That's been the conversation. It wasn't UCF versus Cincinnati, which if anybody knows, UCF versus Cincinnati has become a rivalry over the last 5 years, 5-6 years. They have become rivals. And this is now 2 straight weeks where you kind of felt that the game at hand has taken a back seat to the turmoil surrounding the program. We played Florida, right? And to be honest, going into that game, you were thinking everybody was going to be so hype. Everybody was going to be on Twitter talking about it. It was going to be the biggest thing ever. But after the loss to Colorado, it took all the wind out of everybody's sails. Then this week, after the loss to Florida, rivalry week against Cincinnati. How it's been the last couple years. I remember how it was last year. How bad both teams wanted to get the win in the Big 12. And I remember that. And now this year, I'm going to be honest, I don't remember even seeing a lot of propaganda at all this week. So then come to find out, Friday night, that E.J. Colson would probably be starting. Shocking, right? Everybody assumed Jakari Brown would be the starter, given the money that was paid to him through NIL to come here. And everybody assumed he would be the starter next year after KJ, sit behind KJ, learn, get ready. So it was still not on Cincinnati. The talking point and everybody was talking about was Jakari Brown or E.J. Colson getting the start against Cincinnati and how that could turn the season around and it gives the team a new spark. The team needed to make a quarterback change. And I'm going to be honest, I'm not going to make this show and I'm not going to make these post-game pods the same song and dance every single week. Because I'm going to be honest, guys. I think we've now seen 6 games. We have seen 6 games of this. I don't foresee this team getting much better. I think the problems we see in week 6 or game 6, we're going to see probably in game 9. I think the same frustrations that I have coming into these post-game pods and trying to give you the analysis you deserve is going to be the same analysis that I give in week 12. Each game's different. So we're going to break down each game the way the games are broken down. But, and you have every right in the comments to speak your mind about how the season's gone and the future of the program. But I can't come on here every week and talk just about how bad this program is headed right now for the season. I'm going to talk about how bad the games are, what went wrong, what went right, because there was a lot that went right in this game. But I think it's going to get worse before it gets better, and I don't think there's any point in just saying the same stuff every week. I think last week was the low that UCF could get in terms of this podcast when we're talking about just where the program is and all that. I think now we're at the phase of let's just see what UCF can do, right? So you start E.J. Colson. He went on he went on the first opening drive, you get the ball. First opening drive, you just drive the ball down the field. Big run by RJ. Good decision-making by EJ on the RPOs. And, it was good by EJ. It was a good first drive. And then Johnny Richardson, fumbles. And then defense comes up huge, gets an interception. And then EJ, they send a blitz. EJ gets it out into the flat to Johnny, gives it right back to him. And what do you know? Johnny fumbles. That's not the game. But when you're not that good of a football team, I'm just being blunt and honest. When you're not that good of a football team, you can't make mistakes like that. Because at most, like the second drive, we don't know what could have happened. They had the ball on like the 10-yard line. So he fumbled it, and since he got the ball right there. And credit the defense. I think they only held him to a field goal. So it's like, and we'll get to the defense. But that's 3 points potentially on the first drive. You were driving. The offense looked crisp. It looked fast. And you can't really grade EJ off of those drives. You just can't. On the third drive that he played in, you can kind of grade him. He had the fumble. He grabbed his own fumble. Looked a little antsy in the pocket at some points. But you can't really grade what he did. Jakari, when he came in, and this is kind of why I wanted Jakari at quarterback. Not that I didn't want EJ. I just didn't expect them to put the 17-year-old true freshman quarterback in to start. Jakari, you kind of saw it today. Jakari has a different element when it comes to running the football. And I think with this team and how the offense navigates right now, you need that element. And you saw why today. Because there's certain plays that just don't work. And there's certain times where there's just nobody open. And you kind of need a quarterback in this offense right now that can make plays with his legs. You saw it early since he didn't really have any answer for it. They played much better as the game went on. He only ended up he had 16 attempts for 84 yards. And I think the sack adjusted. I don't even want to know how many yards they would have got because the rushing stats for UCF is 40 attempts for 196 yards. But with the sack adjusted, it was 228 yards. So that's, 34 or 32 yards due to sacks that kind of got negated because of sacks. So, and most of those would have been Jakari's. So you're talking about a guy that had a lot of your offense with his legs and by throwing. Now, Jakari wasn't perfect. He wasn't. At the end of the day, he made some big mistakes. Like, there's a reason these guys weren't necessarily just the clear-cut QB1, and they went with KJ Jefferson. But I do think this was needed. I do think this was the move that was needed. The offense looked somewhat better. The offense just looks rough, guys. We all have eyes. We see it. It's not good. And it's surprising. I don't know. Like, and I said I would not want to be Gus Malzahn right now because it's like, what's different? Like, Gus Malzahn's called the same offense this is now his 4th year here. He's been calling basically the same offense his whole career. It never has felt this bad where they just can't score the football. They get into the red zone, they can't score. The penalties today were just mind-boggling with some of the penalties. It's an undisciplined football team. And, we can blame Gus all we want. At the end of the day, the players do play. And some of the plays that the players are making, or they're just not making enough plays to win the game. Like, are you going to blame Gus for Johnny Richardson fumbling 2 times in the game? I don't know. Like, that's where it's everybody. I know everybody wants to find a fall guy, and everybody wants to be like, okay, well, Gus is the one that wants the players, and Gus is the one that goes after all these guys, and he's to blame. Well, before the season, there's a reason everybody was talking like UCF was in contention here. All of us UCF, like everybody that will probably watch this pod was assuming UCF was going to be a contender. So now all of a sudden you see how they're playing and you're like, oh, Gus this, Gus that. It's a big portion on Gus. But at the end of the day, some of the plays, you can't blame Gus. You have to blame sometimes the players that are on the field making the plays and executing. I mean, it's just as simple as that. Jakari on a 3rd and 6, big time play, running up the gut when there's no hole up the gut. Jakari on the 4th and, God, I can't remember the down and distance, but I think it was like the 4th and 2, and he kind of evaded a guy and then threw a dart to Kobe in double coverage when he had to run up the gut. It's certain plays, the false starts, the simple false starts, or the encroachment on the defense, even though the defense really didn't have much bad today. So it's just all bad. And I think what makes it worse, and we'll get into it a little right now, is the defense played their best game of the year, and it wasn't even close. And if the defense played like that or plays like that every week, you just need your offense to be average. And I mean, I genuinely mean that. Like, let's look at UCF's drive chart. On their offense, right? Fumble, downs. So your first 3 offensive possessions, you turned the ball over. I know downs doesn't count as technically a turnover. It's I think it does. Let me see. Do they count it as turnover on here? I'm almost positive they count that as a turnover, but maybe I'm wrong. 2. Yeah, 2. They don't count it as turnover, but it's a turnover. Like, you went for it on 4th down, you didn't get it. That's turnover. Fumble, downs, punt. Then you go in the 2nd and 3rd quarter, you score back-to-back. So you get a field goal and then a touchdown. And then from 3:06 left in the 3rd quarter, you go punt, field goal. And that was it. Punt, field goal. And then they kind of were driving at the end there, but bad clock management. Kicked the field goal, had to call a timeout, and then got the ball back, but then you had the false start, which did the 10-second runoff. And I think if you take that back, I think UCF has a chance there. Like, that's the thing. UCF had a chance to go win the game after how bad they played on the offensive side of the ball, and that's what's frustrating. Like, you look at it, and you're like, look at what the defense did. Interception, field goal, and they got the ball on the 4-yard line. They got the ball on the UCF 4-yard line, held them to a field goal, then gave up a touchdown, which I don't, like, they gave up a lot of yards on some of these plays, but again, it's all, and you gave up the touchdown, but they made an interception the next time. They missed the field goal attempt at the end of the half, which was absolutely ridiculous. The refs in this game were absolutely atrocious. The PI on Chasen Johnson was absolutely egregious. The Scott Satterfield running to midfield to call a second timeout when you're not allowed to do that, and then the refs just not doing anything about it. Absolutely egregious. And I'm not saying that's the reason they lost the game. Like, let's call it like it is. I'm not blaming the refs for this loss. But at the end of the day, there are some egregious there's egregious things that the refs did in this game that it cannot go unnoticed. So they went to field goal attempt, then they opened up the half, punted. UCF defense got a stop out of half. Then field goal, punt, touchdown, punt. So you only gave up 2 touchdowns and 2 field goals in a game, and you lose by 6. And that's what's frustrating. I mean, they got killed in time of possession. Defense, again, it was more bend, don't break, specifically today, which, again, will take bend, don't break over bend and break every single drive. The defense, I think, has found something. They found something. I know Ethan Barr didn't play later in the game. We'll see what his health status is. UCF's defense found something today, and maybe it's just Cincinnati, but we were looking at the running stats, and UCF stopped the run really well. Like, Cincinnati couldn't really run the football. Outside of, let me get the exact stats up. Because Corey Kiner had 17 attempts for 83 yards. His long was 46, and that was on the first run play for Cincinnati, was that 46-yarder. So, I mean, they didn't, and then it was 32 attempts for 97 yards. So, if you calculate it, I don't want to do the math on air. Like, I don't want to be 100% accurate. This is definitely going to be, but the sack adjusted for Cincinnati was 110 yards. So if you really do I'll do the math. See, look at me just switching up. I'll do the math. So 110 yards that they had if the sack was adjusted based off the UCF sacks. They had 97 yards in total, but the sack adjusted was 110. So if you take off the 46-yard run, the first run of the game, that's 64 yards. So, and then that's 31 carries. So you take away or whatever. So basically, let's just call it 30 carries for 64 yards. Like, 29 carries for 64 yards, right? 29 carries for 64 yards. Thank you for hanging in there with me. That's incredible. Like, UCF stopped the run today. UCF stopped the run. Yes, did they give up some passes in the second half that maybe they shouldn't have? Sure. But at the end of the day, they allowed 10 points or 9 points in the second half. They allowed 10 points in the first half. Should have been 10 points if the field goal kicker didn't. I don't know if it was blocked or if you mixed it. I wasn't looking at the time, but 10 points and 10 points. 20 points, 19, 20 points should win you a ball game. Holding a team to 19 to 20 points in a game with this UCF offense that's supposed to be so dominant should win you a game. But it's just not right now. The offense is not good. And you see why Gus made a change. The offense just needs something. It needs a spark. I think they found some stuff. They found something. Will that translate into, more points? Being more efficient? I don't know. These teams are coming out and saying straight up what their game plan is for UCF. Stop the run and force them to throw. Now, what I think it changes, and Gus said, they don't have a starting quarterback right now, which going into game 7 is absolutely mind-boggling. The fact that we're now going to go into are we playing Jakari Brown or EJ Colson over the next couple weeks? Who knows? I assume Jakari will be the starter. But then again, I heard some other things where maybe they think EJ is going to be the starter. I have no earthly idea. I guess we'll find out when you guys all find out next Saturday when they play Iowa State in Ames. But they found something. But it's still not working. And I don't know what Gus Malzahn can do. I truly don't. Like, you made the big change. And he needed to make the change. And he made the right change. Jakari looked way better. He went 13 of 20 for 207 yards and a touchdown and then ran for 84 yards. Could he have been better? Absolutely. I talked about it earlier. He definitely could have been better. But the offense is your big problem. The defense isn't good, but they are getting, you see improvements being made, right? Like you see the slight improvements from week to week. This week was a huge improvement. They stopped the run. They played pretty good in a lot of passing situations. They got home. The pressure was incredible today. The defense looked like an entirely different defense. And you have to give Ted Roof and staff a bunch of credit. They made the necessary adjustments. They brought in X-Ray Alexander a lot more. They brought in Isaiah Nixon a lot more. They played Jason Johnson a lot more. They played some of these guys that deserve playing time because they've been making plays. But it's not translating to wins because your offense just can't get anything done. And that is crazy to say because we were talking about it earlier on the post-game live. You go into every season with UCF saying if the defense is just average, UCF has a chance to make a lot of noise. That is the UCF way. As long as I've known UCF, the way around UCF is as long as UCF's defense is average, UCF is going to be a dangerous team. It's completely flipped. As long as UCF's offense is just average, you win this game. As long as your UCF offense against Florida is average. Now, I don't know if you win that because, to be honest, I think Florida just took their foot off the gas pedal in the second half. But even so, you can't tell me that they weren't trying to run up the score. Even if the UCF offense was average, you're in the Florida game. It doesn't feel like that big of a blowout. Now, the Colorado thing, that's a little different. The UCF defense didn't really play that well, but they got you enough stops where you feel like if you just matched them, you can make it a game. The entire team isn't playing together, right? Complementary football is huge. And right now, there's no part of the football team that is really meshing together. I heard something on the ESPN broadcast that people are bringing up that I guess there were guys fighting on the sideline. The ESPN broadcast brought it up. I love that. I'd much rather have guys upset than guys just chilling on the sideline. And I understand there's fans that upset. I get it. This is not a good year. You're 3-3 against, teams that many thought that you would beat early. Cincinnati was probably the most winnable game on your schedule for the rest of the year, and you dropped it. And what hurts is you played your best defensive game of the year. And to be also clear, I don't know if you're going to find a better matchup for you than what you found tonight. Because you played the game plan to perfection on defense, and you still couldn't score the ball against a defense that can give up points. Texas Tech put up 44 on the same defense that you're playing. Granted, I know, Cincinnati had a lot of guys out. I do know that. But the point still stands. You put up 13 in back-to-back weeks. You've been on a downward spiral on defense. And I'm just saying the same stuff over and over, but that's what it is. It's what it is. And it might be a long season. Like we were talking about, I don't see another win, guys. I don't. So you just be mentally prepared to go 3-9. And that's not trying to be doom and gloom. Do I think UCF will go 3-9? No. I think they'll figure out some ways to win games. I think they're going to really look at their tape. And listen, again, like I said, I don't know who the quarterback's going to be. If I had to bet money on it, it'd probably be Jakari moving forward. And I think he gives you an element that you need to win football games. I think bringing in a new starter, there's always growing pains. If I had to guess, I don't think they get to 6 wins. They might steal a win here or there. Like, you can make the argument maybe Arizona. Maybe make the argument that they can somehow go into Morgantown and beat West Virginia, or, somehow beating Arizona State. Maybe stealing one at home somewhere. I don't know. But yeah, it's, you guys were all saying it. I don't see another win. I don't see where UCF should be favored in any of these games, because there's not a good football team. And I think it's not easy for me to say, but it's true. They're just not a good football team. I don't need to make this pod go 40 minutes or 45 minutes to talk about all the stats anymore. Let's wrap it with this. What went well? The defense played their hearts out and gave UCF a chance to win. Everybody on the defense played good. I can't really name you a guy that played bad. Really. And if it was, I'm going to be honest, I'm not going to nitpick. Like, you held Cincy to 19 points, which, if I'm not mistaken, I think that might be their, I think that's their lowest point total, right? We have the time. Let's look. Of this year, yeah. Right? I'm pretty sure. Yeah. Held their lowest point total on the year, I think. If I'm wrong, let me know. But I'm almost positive that 19 is their lowest on the year. You held them to the lowest points that they had all year, but you still only scored 13. So the positive is the defense. The negative, UCF can't score the football. Like, it was a tied game there. It was 10-10. 10-10, and Jakari went on a good drive. Threw a great ball to Kobe on you guessed it, an RPO slant play. That's the only play that seems to work. So I don't know. I think the offense has become very vanilla, and I don't know if it's because of personnel. Here's the one thing I will say. If Gus needs to take anything so far from this year and make sure he doesn't make the same mistake, you cannot bring in 40 new transfer players and expect them to be title contenders. I think he's learned that very quickly, and hopefully he doesn't make the same mistake again. Because I'm not all about freeing the young players. I'm not all about just throwing them out there and letting them play. I will say, if UCF loses the next two, put in all your young guys. If UCF loses the next two and you go 3-5, put in the young guys. There's no need to not play them. But if you're 4-4, heading in the final 4 games, no, you play the normal guys. But if you're 3-5, you put in the young guys. That would be how many straight losses? That'd be 5 straight losses with some tough opponents coming up. Who knows? It's just not that great. Not that great at football. All right, everybody. That's going to do it. Hopefully that was a somewhat concise pod. I feel like I was all over the place on that one. But there's not really, much more. There'll be much more analytical breakdowns coming up. We've got a big one next week against Iowa State. Be on the lookout for that. Pre-game pod coming out on Thursday, per usual. They're a really good team. They, I think, got a win tonight against West Virginia. They came back and won handily. That's not going to be easy going to Ames. But again, you look at it from a perspective of UCF has a lot of opportunity for the rest of the season. They've got a bunch of teams that are ranked that people think highly of, and UCF has a chance to go in and make some noise. Their goals are basically over unless they win out. And even that, it's like you're asking for the world there, because they just need to get a win and talk about winning out. But post-game or pre-game pod will be on Thursday, and then we are going to be doing our live watch-along. I don't know exactly where I'm going to be doing it, but we are doing the live watch-along for next Saturday. just a little heads up. All right, thank you so much for tuning in. As always, please like, subscribe, comment, share. Do all that you do. We greatly appreciate it. We are so close to 1,000 subscribers. We'd really appreciate it if you can get us over the hump on that one. We love the work that we do. We love that you guys support us, even when UCF might not be doing so hot. So we really, truly do appreciate it. All right, thank you so much. This has been Charge on Persona Bet Online. We will see you on Thursday.